Hello everybody and welcome back to Suzerain. So in the last episode we formed a secret state police and as you can see the fascist is slowly just starting to take full shape here in Sordland. In this episode we'll be tackling, let's see here, we have the religious harmony bill, we have to read the report from the ministry, and we have a couple other things here. Arcadia offers aid, which I am going to take. And there's a few other things that's going to evolve in this chapter also. And like I said in the last video, I'm going to cut back on some of the actual dialogue that I do, so I won't focus so much so on the news posts and things like that. I'll just read the headlines, scroll down a little bit, let you see it, go from there. So for here, we have Rain meets with Smolik and Van Horten. Go ahead and scroll that down, and yeah, I'll be doing that here in a little bit after I finish up a couple missions. And let's see. We have a report over here. Ministry of Health discusses privatization. In the last episode, I went ahead and decided to go ahead and privatize education so we can kind of make up some of our budget shortfall. Because as you can see, our economy is quite, well, shit right now. So let's jump into the next thing here. The Religious Harmony Bill. For the purpose of increasing religious harmony and unity, the following laws are established in religious affairs. Section 1 of the RHB will ensure that the day of dissension ceremony in the arch sanctuary of Dare shall from now on only hold sermons in the Sordish language. Section 2 will forbid sanctuaries from holding sermons in Bludish unless they receive approval from the archpriest of Sordland. Section 3 will enforce that all priests applying to be state sanctioned have Sordish descent to be able to receive their salaries and pensions. So as you can see, this is more of a nationalization effort here. So yeah, we'll go ahead and sign that bill because again, fascist. So there you go. I think there's actually an achievement for the fascist route. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it though, because I think because I banned the young swords, that kind of screwed that up there. So all right, and whole sword, the religious harmony bill is signed. And of course, they're just affirming what I've pretty much done. And of course, the radical is, as usual, very happy about certain things that I've done because I'm on the right. So there you go. All right. Arcadia offers aid. The foreign minister of Arcadia has offered a substantial amount of financial, logistical, and equipmental support to help our country. In return, Arcadia requests refuel and repair access to the Earlery Air Force Base whenever they require. President Dwight Walker has sent personal assurance that this agreement is for peaceful purposes only. So I will go ahead and accept that because right now we do need that money for our budget. So, and later on I'm probably going to need Arcadia's help. Again, while I do know some of what's going to happen, I'm not completely sure about what's going to happen because I'm going to keep the government under a state of emergency. So we'll see how that goes. And of course, once again, Arcadia is very happy about the things that I'm doing. I mean, the radical, sorry about that. All right, read the report from Whole Sword. And United Contana is not happy about everything that's going on. Of course, you know, the USSR, United States parallel, naturally they wouldn't be happy with me signing a bill or signing a agreement with Arcadia. So, however, that will help out later on when I'm working with Lesbia because Lesbia has a lot of trade with Arcadia. So hopefully I can go ahead and get a deal with Weyland, with Lesbia, and maybe Agnolia, but I don't think it's going to help me at all as far as like the keeping the immigration open. We'll see, but I don't think it's going to work. So, a call from Gus Manger. I was sipping my first cup of coffee for the day when the phone lit up and rang. I swore under my breath and thought my schedule was clear for at least half an hour. I picked up the phone. Mr. President, how are you doing on this fine day? Doing all right. Oh, well, I'll just say, what is it, Gus? I'm calling you because I received a call from the CEO of Armadine Industries, Aaron Bridges, about the recent initial public offering on the Ventry City Stock Exchange, the investment that I did earlier in the game. As you might have guessed, it's about our significant venture investment of 2,000 shares worth nearly 2 million Ren. I'm very pleased to say that we have made gains. The shares have doubled in price at the IPO in the VCSE, and we will soon receive the profits made from the investment. Isn't that great? Great news. So how much did we gain? You'll love it. In total, we've made nearly 3 million Sordish Ren. It was risky, yes, but look at where we are now. It's all thanks to you, Gus. Well, I will take that. Thank you. I assure you, this will pale in comparison to what we will do together in the future. The money will be transferred to your personal bank account shortly. This is the beginning of a good partnership. Keep it up. I think so too. Goodbye for now. The line dropped. Alright, so there you go. Now my wealth has shot up to 7. That actually is going to come into play later on in the game. You will need those personal funds for other different things. And also one little neat thing too, based off of certain choices you made. So for instance, in one playthrough that I did, of course, as you know, I'm privatizing education. There's going to be some situations later on where you're going to have to decide whether or not to send your son to school and stuff like that, and send your son to college. Now, if you have free education in the country, you can turn around and just go ahead and send them to whatever school you want to in the country, and there won't be any type of penalty for that. However, if you decide to privatize things, you're gonna have to pay for it, and if you don't have any money, there you go. There is only one other option, which is to send them to the United Cantana, which, of course, if you're against Arcadia, not gonna be good. So I like the little divergencies and stuff like that they have. So the economy, Armadine stocks jumped to nearly double. So that's basically what Gus was going over with me on that phone call. Let's see what else we have here. Private party of the Gentlemen's Club with Peter, and a briefing on the status of immigration regulation, White Room, Maroon Palace. We were in the middle of a meeting in the palace about our plan for the immigration policy. The ensuing discussion quickly became heated. I don't think so, Mr. Whiskey. It just doesn't make any sense to me that a foreign citizen should come before a Sorter citizen in Sordland. Well said. My analysis is also in line with this, especially during the economic recession. We're giving Sortish jobs to immigrants from other countries. What about our own people? Immigrants are the reason our economy is not in a state that is unsalvageable. Look at Agnolia immigrants in England. They have revitalized the whole region. Not just that, they have been boosting the economy of the entire country. Simon can attest to that. Statistically speaking, allowing immigrants to become part of the workforce contributes to our economy, but I agree that the current situation is very nuanced. We can't just tighten our immigration policy and expect the economy to stay the same. We need to put economy and the recession at the forefront. Thankfully, we have just started receiving the financial aid from Arcadia. And then what? Will we become their servants in the future? First, they will place their warplanes in Earlery. Then their armies will come. You'll see. I do not approve of this decision at all. I have done this with the Sorter citizens in mind, nothing else. That's how they take over countries, We have seen it happen many times. Gentlemen, can we please get back on topic? Right, sorry, Whiskey. As I was just saying before I was interrupted, look at the superpowers. Do you see them closing off their borders? Why do you think they have such a large economy? They are in their current state because they welcome immigration and use it to their advantage. We need to modernize them to reach the level of the superpowers. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I'm of the same mind. It is proven that immigration helps countries to develop. Also, we cannot just deport our current immigrants. We need a decision, but before we move on, Mr. President, do you have any question about the current state of immigration? Actually, I don't. I mean, I'm going to stick with the path that I have right now as far as open immigration. I do think it's a little contrary to what I'm actually trying to achieve here, especially with the emergency declaration, but we'll go with it. I don't have any questions. Let's move on to solutions. Very well. David Whiskey opened his dossier, stamped with the seal of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Before we make any decision, I have to remind you, during the election, we promised to keep our immigration laws relaxed, which I think is the right course of action. I disagree. We are supposed to control and reduce the negative effects of immigration like lawlessness and subversion. I see your point, Isov, but the economy certainly benefits from more immigration. Internal order, on the other hand, suffers immensely. We should tighten the laws to prevent further chaos. David let out a long sigh. This is going nowhere. I'm ready to make a decision. Yes. Everyone leaned forward and were eager to hear my response. We will keep immigration laws relaxed. I'm glad you've made the right choice. We will be forced to handle new waves of migrants from Magnolia. Our border posts aren't ready. Not only that, but we just abandoned the swords who really needed our support the most. Also, this will bring a new tide of refugees from Weyland. Bergia is already a difficult region to manage. This is shameful. You know, Ice Off, boy, if I could have you assassinated right now. I tell you. Let's see. The citizens of Sordland aren't forgotten. Our work for them continues. And now, they will compete to bring food on the table with foreign immigrants. I'm disappointed. Anything else, Mr. President? Thank you for your contributions. Let's wrap this up. The ministers gathered their documents and stood up from their chairs, some with frowns on their faces. I'm looking forward to the upcoming trade talks. Peter and I have been actively visiting Stallport and Roklauts to prepare it all. I'll be coming along to talk with the economy minister. Looking forward to the potential partnership. If we're finished, I need to head off and get the ministry to work on the new policy. Same here, our border units need to be informed and prepared. Yes, we're finished. Get the hell out of my office. I swear, sometimes, Ice Off. Oof. Okay, the Red Youth Hideout has been raided. It's probably due to the increased police budget that I have. And the editor of the Radical is suspected of helping terrorists. Please arrest them, my God. Okay. The Chaven Times, freedom in education choice. Privatization right there. Again, that's from the result of the privatization plan that we had in the last video. And the Radical is still, as usual, very upset about everything that I do. You gotta love them. So, I don't know if I can actually take that newspaper over. I don't think I can, but we'll see. Report from the Ministry of the Interior. Okay. We have here. It's ring. Okay, now because of the increased budget, the Cornelian Skinner groups have been. Well, we're taking the war against them a little bit now. So I don't think you can actually do that unless you increase the police budget. So, or the military budget. I'm not sure actually. I haven't had a playthrough like that yet. So, oh wait, we also have this over here. The lockdown in Dare has been lifted. 100 terrorists were killed, and 28,500 people were detained for supporting or working with the terrorists. Jesus. So, a little bit of a bloodbath there, but the situation is under control now, so it seems. And now we have a private party of the Gentlemen's Club, Villa of Peter Vectern, Earlery. Far from becoming accustomed to my workload as president, I only felt more and more snowed under as the weeks passed. It has been ages since I had any time to myself. I was starting to lose my focus, and my temper was growing increasingly thin. Peter was the first to realize I needed a break. After much cajoling, he finally persuaded me to come to a meeting of his new venture, Gentlemen's Club. For the past few months, he'd been hosting a salon of sorts, not just for politicians and businessmen, but also for artists, entertainers, people of taste, he told me with a smile on his face. There was only one rule: no wives or girlfriends allowed, hence the name. And so I found myself in front of his new luxury villa in Earlery. Very loud jazz music emanated from inside. I waited and waited. Finally, Peter opened the door. I could smell the whiskey on his breath. Anton, finally, come in, relax, take a break from this crisis. As soon as I entered, Peter closed the door and turned to the small crowd. Gentlemen, a minute of your time, please. I now have the privilege to present to you the man himself, the 4th president of Sordland, Mr. Anton Rain. I'd known him from long enough to understand that he was more than a little drunk. He made an elaborate mock curtsy as I passed him and walked into the room. The music stopped, and I felt everyone's eyes on me. And I present to you Peter Vectern, the first alcoholic vice president of Sordland. I'm not gonna go that far. Thank you, Peter. What next? A choir? A marching band? No, I'm saving those for your funeral. Okay, maybe I should have did it. Peter laughed very hard at his own grim joke before continuing. Dear members, please give a warm welcome to our very special guest. If I may, Anton, here, take this. He handed me a glass of whiskey and put his hand on my shoulder. We all know why we gathered here tonight, to celebrate life, to have a brief escape from our tumultuous professions. I personally don't know any better cure for stress than a little drink. Only a little one? Raise your glass. Now, the tradition dictates that as the club president, I have to remind you of our house rules. There are 3. No politics, no wives, no one sober. Cheers. Peter drank the whiskey in his glass in one go. I'll sip on it. Anton Rain might have the power to make the presidential decrees, but I, Peter Vector, and the president of this club, now declare this party started. Music, go. The band started up again. After greeting the crowd around me, I felt a hand on my shoulder. Let me show you around. He walked through the corridors of his mansion. Statues and paintings lined the stark white walls, and arched windows provided a view of the neatly manicured grounds, complete with a swimming pool. A grand lesbian marble staircase led up to the second floor. Peter gestured at the massive crystal chandelier hanging overhead. The chandelier was made in the 18th century. Can you believe it? There's even a hedge mage in the garden. Let me see. How are you paying for all this? I'll let you in on a secret. Gus Manger has a lot of contacts in real estate. He brokered a good deal for me. He'll also be here tonight. I can introduce you if you like. Do you think he could arrange a deal for me as well? Why wouldn't he? I'm sure he can give you some investment options. We continued walking until we circled back to where we had started. So, what do you think of my little hideaway? Not bad. Not bad at all. Thanks. You know that you, Monica, and the kids are always welcome here. Why would I bring my kids to this? Anyway, let's get back to the party. I arranged for some caviar to be brought in from Lesbia. You're going to love it. He opened the door to the main hall, and we rejoined the other guests. The music was louder now, and the mood decidedly more inebriated. Cocktail waitresses were carrying around plates of canapes, wearing dresses that left little to the imagination. I thought this was a gentleman's club. Would you rather get served by wrinkly old men? Sweetheart, over here. He waved at one of the waitresses, and she came over to us. She was in her mid-20s, wearing red lipstick, her blonde hair neatly tied into a ponytail. On her plate were toast points slathered in the lesbian caviar Peter had mentioned. I took a bite. It was rich, salty, tasting of pure seaside. I could almost hear the sound of waves and seagulls. Lesbian caviar, best in the world. I'm telling you, Anton, there are few pleasures in life that are this. As the waitress left us to serve another attendee, she flashed a quick smile at Peter over her shoulder. He smiled back, a little too broadly. Sensual. His eyes were still fixed on her, with an expression I remembered from our many nights out together as students. Oh look, there's Gus. Why don't you go talk to him? I'll be back shortly. Where are you going? Oh, just to the washroom. I'll be back before you know it. Oh boy. Gus Manger was standing next to a couple of men that I recognized as banking industry magnates. As I approached, all of them turned to me and bowed their heads. Mr. President, a toast to our new member, everyone. Gus and I clinked our glasses as the people around us raised theirs. How long have you been a member? Since the beginning. It's a fun gathering, and quite lucrative at times. You might have heard from Peter that I arranged this deal for this mansion. He also told me that you might be interested in a potential opportunity such as, well, this. He opened his arms, gesturing at our opulent surroundings. Let's take a walk. The balcony has an amazing view of Earlery. We left the room and made our way to the balcony. On the way, he took out 2 cigars and held one out for me. I took the cigar and started smoking it. Mixed with taste of whiskey, it was delicious. We went out to the balcony. All of Earlery was at our feet. From this vantage point, I was able to see how expansive the building plot was. The swimming pool and the hedge maze were visible from here. Leaning over the railing, I admired the view for a moment before Gus spoke up. I know you're wondering about the deal Peter made. In a nutshell, thanks to my network, he was able to procure this house for half the asking price, which would have been impossible under any other circumstances. I would be delighted to discuss a similar arrangement with you. In fact, I've prepared a document with my own personal favorite opportunities. This is the least I can do since you've been generous to many business people in this country. Thank you. No, Mr. President, thank you. Let's talk about the details then. Gus opened his briefcase and pulled out a thin dossier, showed it to me. My first offer is, of course, real estate. There is a vineyard close to Earlery, about 1 hour drive from here, that also includes a very large villa. A beautiful plot, but rather neglected, so there would be a fair amount of renovation costs. On the bright side, you will be able to produce your own wine. The previous owner was Geralt of Ribery, a world-renowned vintner. Okay. There's also the option of a football partnership. I already own a large portion of Enrica FC, and I'm doing my best to make them champions. Buying in would be more expensive than the vineyard, but this season will bring a lot of returns. I'm quite positive. My biggest opportunity, though, is the possibility to buy shares in Underhall Construction. My connection ensured me that this would not be open to public and would benefit you greatly. As you know, they are the biggest construction company in Sordland. Give me the word and I will start the procurement process. But we must act quickly, as these options might soon disappear off the market. Oof, okay then. So, the last time I got this opportunity, I decided to invest in the football in Enrica FC. This time, however, I think I'm gonna invest in Underhall Construction, especially since I have a direct impact on whether or not they get certain contracts and such, which basically means I'll be getting my money back and then some. Then again, on the other hand, I was actually thinking about switching it up the next time I have a investment project. I was thinking about using Taurus Holdings instead. So, Decisions. I really do want to invest in Underhall Construction for lore purposes, but I might just do the vineyard. Oh man, this is complicated. Yeah, because I was just thinking about that. I really did want to go ahead and do Underhall Construction, but now that I think about it, I was thinking about switching it up the next time. So I guess I will just do the vineyard this time around. The vineyard in Earlery. I've always wanted to have my own wine, and it sounds peaceful and quiet. Excellent. I'll start the process right away. Now, if you excuse me, Mr. President. He left to rejoin the party. Alone on the balcony, I looked out over Earlery. Suddenly, I heard a rustling from the hedge maze below. I looked down and saw a silhouette. 2 silhouettes, actually, so close together they seemed to be entangled. I squinted and tried to get a better look. It was definitely 2 people kissing, but I couldn't see either of their faces. I returned to the party and spent some time mingling with the other guests, engaging them in small talk about their businesses, their children, their relationships. Around an hour later, Peter showed up next to me. See, I told you I'd be back before you knew it. It's been an hour. Where were you? I told you, I was in the washroom. Why? I'll be direct. Were you with the waitress? What? No. How could you think that? I'm a married man. Right. You know that you can tell me anything. Hey, you can have her if you want her. Anyway, want a drink? Because I do. He poured us 2 large glasses of whiskey, and we drank them in one go. Throughout the party, we drank and drank, just like old times. I woke up the next day with a pounding headache and more than a few regrets. My memories of the evening were hazy, but there was one important detail that kept coming back to me: the red lipstick on Peter's collar. But maybe my memory was playing tricks on me. Oh, Peter, you're gonna make my life hard, aren't you? Alright, we have more privatization in education. Let's see, it's in full swing in certain parts, but starting to see progress from that. Oh god. Let's see. We have a police report from Suzerain. 2,600 citizens were taken into police custody over the weekend. So yeah, Most of them are suspected of having close ties with the British Freedom Front. So still having problems in Bergia. Shocking. And there's another protest there. So yeah. If only we had drones. It would be so much easier if we had drones. Okay. Let's see here. Whole sword post connection to the young swords. I always thought it would be the Lechavan times, not whole sword post. Huh. And let's see what we got here. The opening of the Benfey Festival, Benfey High Arts Center, Benfey. Our motorcade slowly made its way towards the magnificent Benfey High Arts Center. Night was falling, and the festival was about to begin. I flipped through the brochure that had been given to us at the hotel. Monica's face was featured on the front page, but the schedule on the inside still said that Curtin Less, mayor of Enrica, will be making the opening remarks. My last-minute announcement that my wife would be replacing Curtin must have caused some confusion at the print shop. The Benfey Festival was one of the biggest events of the year. It originally marked the start of the annual religious pilgrimage, a weeks-long journey still undertaken by devout Nuris, but today it was better known as a cultural celebration that drew thousands of revelers to the city. There were film screenings, concerts, theater and dance performances, art exhibitions, and celebrity-studded nightly galas. The opening ceremonies were broadcast on TV and watched by millions. As the car slowed, a coterie of reporters and security guards rushed to meet us. I turned my attention to Monica. She nervously eyed the waiting crowd. I'll just hold her hand. I took her hand into mine and gave it a firm squeeze. She smiled and turned her head to look out the window once again. As soon as Sergei opened the door, we were enveloped by the roar of the crowd. The next few minutes were a blur of handshakes, photos, and reporters' questions. The onlookers cheered as we walked the red carpet to the newly built art center. We followed the guards through the cavernous white halls until we came to a set of arched doors leading to the auditorium. We waited outside as security did a quick sweep of the area, then headed in. So this is it. I will finally stand on the same platform as you. A platform where Sordland's women will have their voices heard and acknowledged for the first time. Good luck. The two of us proceeded to the podium. I spoke first, delivering a short paragraph about the importance of Benfey and the festival to Sordland. I then introduced Monica. Thunderous applause echoed around the auditorium as she stepped to the microphone. I exited the stage and found my seat, right next to Curtin Lest. Ladies and gentlemen, as the First Lady of Sordland, I welcome all of you to the Benfey Festival. The crowd erupted again, clapping and cheering. Curtin Lest leaned over and hissed into my ear. Mr. President, I'm afraid you've made a great mistake. There will be consequences. Are you threatening me, Curtin? No, I'm merely telling you what will happen. Your little stunt has lost you my support in the assembly. I kept my eyes on the stage with the applause. When the applause subsided, Monica resumed her speech. The festival holds a very important place in all our hearts. It is a celebration of art, music, theater, but above all, it's a celebration of the people of Benfey, of their free and open-minded spirit. As we all unite for the festivities, we must not forget the values that have inspired them. Today marks the beginning of the Week of the Spirit, a time for vitality, growth, and new beginnings. The crowd was hanging on her every word, but the mayor of Enrica and his entourage didn't seem as impressed. I stand on this podium today to speak about change, about a new beginning for our society. Sordland calls itself a free country, yet half of its citizens are still barred from enjoying the same freedoms that the other half takes for granted. I refer to myself and my fellow women. A rumble went through the crowd, scattered applause mixed with murmurs of discontent. To truly move forward, we must make a break from old traditions and strive towards equality for all, equal rights, equal pay, equal access to education. Enough! The entire hall fell silent. The mayor of Enrica rose and spoke. I will not let this woman besmirch the traditions upon which our great country was built. You bastard. Curtin, get back in your goddamn seat. No, Anton, I can no longer sit idly by. We are past that point. Curtin turned towards the audience, speaking loudly enough to be heard without a microphone. Miss Rain, what rights do you possibly have to pass judgment on our values as Sorder citizens? You are not a politician. You're not a speaker. You're merely a woman who's lucky enough to be married to the president. Your place is not at this podium. It is at home, tending to your husband and children. The crowd was growing rowdier. Some booed and jeered at Curtin's words. Others whooped in approval. Monica froze completely. The audience grew louder. I had to do something. I walked up to the stage and stood beside my wife at the podium. The mayor was still standing defiantly in the front row. Mr. Lest, do I have to teach you basic manners? Have you forgotten what you learned in kindergarten? The crowd erupted in laughter. Curtin's face turned red. I will not stand idly by as our sorest values are being tested, especially by our very own president and his harlot of a wife. Ooh. Well, I mean, I do got some secret police and police officers in general that could just beat the crap out of him. Might as well use it. That's the last straw, Curtin. Get out of my sight immediately. Mr. President, this is a free country. I refuse to leave. The two of us glared angrily at each other. Order the guards to kick him out. My security guards immediately surrounded Curtin and his entourage. How dare you? To a member of the assembly, to a member of your own party. As he was being dragged out of the venue, his voice echoed in the hall. You'll pay for this, Anton. I swear on my name. Do you hear me? You'll pay. The door closed behind them. The crowd began to whisper. Having regained her composure, Monica stepped back behind the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, this incident only serves to demonstrate how visibly divided our country is today. My intention was not to offend or harm anyone. It is unfortunate that even the mention of modern ideals still does not resonate with many in Sordland. I hope we can set aside our differences one day and walk towards a happier, brighter future for all of Sordland's citizens, male and female alike. We must all remember, the future cannot exist without the past, and I believe we're witnessing the meeting of our glorious past and our bright future right here in Benfey today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to officially open the Benfey Festival. A Morgno Escor. Vecturnsis da, most of the audience finished the decades-old saying, but nervous whispers still emanated from around the room. The opening event was finally finished, but my troubles with Curtin was not. I let Monica and my entourage know we'd be flying straight back to Holsword. I was in for yet another sleepless night. Oh boy, so yeah. Now that might not have been the best idea to turn around and do and, have him dragged off with the police. But, I wish I could have had him beat instead, but still, I don't feel like I should have got into a battle with words to him, at least in this playthrough. Now, the last playthrough, I think I turned around and actually did get into a battle of words with him, and it turned out okay. I don't know how the news is going to spin this. Of course, I have Sordland today on my side, so we'll see how things play out. Let's see, we have refugees of Vernon. Okay, we have reports of refugees crossing the border. That might be a problem. Well, we have open immigration, so it's not a problem. And we have gang violence reduced. And that's because of our operations against the Cornelli cartel, our increased police budget, and so on and so forth. So we're starting to reap the benefits of that. All right, Sordland today. Sordland finally achieves harmony. See, they're just staying out of it completely. So, police violence in the old capital. Of course, the Radical is very happy about, everything I'm doing as far as the police goes. Always a pleasure to read them. And Weyland is deploying special forces in Vernon, so of course to deal with the BFF and the British Freedom Front. And yeah, they're gonna have some issues with that. Maybe we can help them out though. Who knows? Let's see. Healthcare negative report. So, oh boy. The Ministry of Health has shut down several hospitals and let go thousands of nurses and doctors as a result of the healthcare budget crisis. So yeah, that's gonna be a problem. And the education negative report. We're gonna have to close down schools and we're gonna have to do some changes as far as the structure goes as well. So, but we can't have everything. So I wish we could do some things in order to gain more, have more of a budget. And I guess you could probably turn around and not invest in some of the different parts of the country and then save that money. If yeah, you could probably save that money, and then when the actual budget come around, you can use that money to increase everything across the board. And that might be something I might actually think about doing. So, but I do want to modernize certain part of the country. I wish you could delay certain things. Like if I could turn around and just hold that money, and then maybe it could stay up here for a while and just kind of put things off, and then I could go ahead and schedule some of those things later on. Then I would prefer that route as opposed to just not having to do it at all. But anywho, assessments of the Benfey Festival scandal. The sun was just beginning to rise as Lucian, Peter, and I gathered in my office to discuss the fallout of the Benfey Festival. Mayor Curtin's untimely departure was bound to reflect badly on me. The only question was how much damage the incident would cause. The news is about to break even as we speak. We must act swiftly to protect the administration. Agreed. This isn't good, Anton. Right now, Les looks like the victim, thrown out of the festival for defending Sordland's precious cultural values. The most important thing is the narrative. We need to regain control of it. He's also one of the Assembly's core conservative members. You've got to act before he rallies the others against you. At the same time, you must not apologize yourself. Insulting the First Lady is an act that should not go unpunished. And of course, our deal with Marcel Caranti might be a solution. That would be the most ideal option. If Sordland today paints you in a favorable light, other publications are bound to follow. I still don't trust that man further than I could throw him, but he might prove useful in this case. How should we proceed, sir? Let me see. I'm going to call Marcel Caranti. We have our deal. Let's put it to use. Excellent choice. With his influence on the media, this could be contained fairly easily. I'm still skeptical about this, but fine, I'll fetch Livia. Peter left the room and came back with my secretary. She had on a short dress and dark eyeliner. Clearly she'd been counting on me being away at the festival for longer. Still, her demeanor was nothing but professional. Mr. Vectorn told me about what happened. Should I connect you to Mr. Caranti directly? Yes, please. As you wish. To be honest, though, I think you should keep this deal in your pocket until you have a scandal worth covering up. Les was completely in the wrong here. Peter grinned. Lucian looked outraged. Talk to Caranti, Mr. President, unless you'd rather take advice from someone in a conical brassiere. Livia left the room to arrange the call. A few minutes later, the telephone lit up. Marcel Caranti, the CEO of the HOS conglomerate, was on the line. I was wondering when you would call. Were you expecting me to? Of course I was. I've just seen the proofs for Sordland today. Seems your incident with poor Mayor Les is about to make headlines. Think about this, Marcel. You don't want me on the other side of the fence. Oh, well, we had a deal. I hope you haven't forgotten. Of course not. Mutual respect between partners is a must. I take it that you want this contained, if not completely gone. Yeah, let's just completely get rid of it. Alas, the event is too newsworthy to receive no coverage, but I can have you banished to the back pages in the next hour. How disappointing. I'm not a saint, Mr. President. I cannot perform miracles. I too have my limits. But in times like these, I'm your personal Lord and Savior. You know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have called. So, do you want me to get to work? Yes, handle the situation immediately. Perfect. I'll call my contacts at the other papers first. I should be able to persuade them to downplay the situation. After that, making the necessary changes to my own publication should be no problem at all. Thank you again. Have a good day. Don't you worry. Until next time, Mr. President. Marcel hung up the phone. I knew this partnership was the right decision. Mr. Caranti should be able to keep the incident under control. I'm surprised he was so enthusiastic about it. But either way, he just made our lives easier. Lucian departed, which left me and Peter in the room. How are the upcoming trade deals for Agnolia and Weyland coming along? As well as expected. They have their own concerns, but they'll fall in line. He leaned back in his chair. It's been a while since we had a drink or two together. Yes, it's been far too long, shall we? At that very moment, the phone began to ring. The news was out. Alrighty, so I got Marcel to go ahead and cover up the situation a little bit. Downtime at home, resident of the president of Sordland, Holsword. It felt like an eternity since the Benfey Festival. Had it really only been less than 24 hours? I was at home now, drinking an afternoon coffee on my balcony. A stack of newspapers lay by my side. I picked them up one by one, reading and rereading the articles about the festival. As expected, Marcel delivered. There was only a second-page article about Curtin Les behaving deplorably and leaving the festival in disgrace. But my relief was short-lived. Marcel was effective, but he was also a double-edged sword. I couldn't help but think that if someone offered him a better deal, he'd turn on me. I was putting the last newspaper down as Monica joined me on the balcony. Listen, can we talk for a bit? Of course. What is it? I've been reading the papers, too. I'm happy the confrontation with Curtin didn't seem to have caused much damage, but it could have gone so much worse. I just wanted to thank you for supporting me and apologize for creating such a spectacle. All I wanted was to bring the people of Sordland together, the way you're able to, but not like this. Her eyes were getting moist. A single tear fell into the newsprint. Wipe her tears away. I leaned forward and wiped her tears from her eyes. She clasped my hand to her face. Oh, Anton. Her eyes filled with gratitude. I could see she'd slept as little as I had since the festival. Thank you. One more thing. You know how stubborn I am. All that business with Les at the festival distracted from my real message. I'm still not giving up on women's rights, Anton. I want to officially adopt this cause as First Lady. To be able to work on reforms, attend meetings, rally support among female politicians. I know this isn't an urgent issue for you, but it's vital to me. Of course, my love. I'm looking forward to working closer together. Oh, Anton, this means so much to me. Monica hugged me tightly, and I felt some of the past day's tension melt away. Thank you. A noise came from the balcony door. We both turned our heads to see Dana standing there. Mama, I'm hungry. Let's go to the kitchen, baby. We'll make Papa the best snack ever. Yeah. They left the balcony and returned half an hour later with a large cookie. Dana had written my name and icing on it. As I sipped my coffee and nibbled the cookie, I thought that I had made the right choice. Things were going to get harder, but at least my life at home was somewhat peaceful. Alrighty then. So that turned out somewhat okay. Let's see what Sordland today said. Rebel mayor taught a lesson. Okay. And they praised Monica Rain in that too. Nice. Thank you, Coronati. Benfey Booze, mayor leaves. Okay. So yeah, they were able to help me a little bit there. I'm so useful to the Chaven Times, it just kind of screwed me over. So I guess he has contacts there too. Okay, Arcasia now has access to the Earlry base, so they're starting to send in stuff. That's nice. Also, when did I lose money in my budget? Jesus. Okay, we have an economic report. Let's see. And the state of emergency has caused a major disruption in the market. So yeah, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a real big problem. Okay, we have the budget allocation of the Swordish Armed Forces. And we have discussion on the formation of a new police force. So, oof. We landed below a 25% approval rating. Now, actually, I think in Sordland's case, that's not terrible. I mean, it's bad, but it's not that bad because Sordland has more than one party. Now, in the United States, if you turned around and had a 25% approval rating, I think the only person to ever get that low of approval rating is like Nixon. I think he got to like 20% at one time, and that was around the time that he was going through impeachment, and you know, he eventually resigned because everything was just so bad. But it's really, really hard to turn around and get that low of an approval rating in the United States because there's only two parties. So, I mean, and granted, you can say independent, libertarians, social democrats, democratic socialists, stuff like that. But it only boils down to two parties, and for the most part, our parties are pretty static when it comes to their support and stuff. I think at his worst, Donald Trump got to like 30%. Did he get to 30%? He might have got to 35%. I think that was the lowest he actually had. I think Obama's lowest percentage was like 45% or something like that. Bush might have got to 38 or the 40s or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty rare to turn around and have something that low. But like in the UK and stuff like that, you can have like a 30% approval rate, and that's perfectly normal. So again, because of the many parties they have and such. So okay, so we'll go ahead and tackle the formation of a new police force instead. Carl Grazer arrived for a meeting to discuss the new police force. After Olivia informed us of his arrival, Lucien opened the door and let him in. Hello, Mr. President, Mr. Gillard. What a sunny day, isn't it? The weather outside was beautiful indeed. Clear sky and sunshine made the scenery look lively. One could even hear the sounds of birds chirping from the palace garden. Good to see you, Carl. How have you been? Even though I chewed your ass out on the day we turned around and had that big screw up, the assassination and stuff. Very good. Thanks to the increased budget at the interior, we have been combating a lot of the issues that plagued us. My position bears more responsibility now. But more importantly, the security situation in the country is much more stable, allowing people to return to a normal life. Please, have a seat. We don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I'm used to the uncomfortable. He took a seat and corrected his glasses. We've been informed of the establishment of the secret state police under the Ministry of the Interior. Correct. Minister Graff has given me full authority to lead the new force in order to combat subversives and other threats to the state from the inside. The agents we have recruited are the most loyal and experienced. Let's see. There are too many enemies inside Sordland. They need to be found and imprisoned. Our established forces have begun gathering intelligence on the suspected enemies of the state. I want to make it absolutely clear. My belief in you as a leader is unquestionable. Consider me as your inside man. Minister Graff, though not as inspiring as you are, has also shown great capability. But the more I work with her, the more I'm convinced that she might pose a threat to you. Why would she? Why would anyone pose a threat? Because of the power they hold, of course. I can easily tell you that she pulls many strings. Ambition is a dangerous thing. Carl leaned close and lowered his voice ever so slightly. The initial analysis by our agents has uncovered some troubling facts. There are elements within our state that have ulterior motives. You don't say. I would have never guessed. Elaborate, please. May I speak frankly, sir? Yes, you're among confidants. The reformers are a threat to the next election, sir. The people could rally behind them and endanger your administration. With the SSP, we can resort to harsh but necessary actions to remove these threats. Let's start with the primary person, the opposition leader, Franz Richter. We've received credible intelligence that he has connections to Arcasia. Upon further inquiries, we see a mismatch of information between the border guard and the intelligence units. The old guard must have pushed this forward. We should consider investigating Mr. Richter further. The PFJP poses a threat for the next election. It's better to know more. Franz Richter should be investigated in full. Yes, sir. If you think he's an enemy, we will look deeper. There's so many potential corruption cases here. I'm a supporter of the Emergency Act and the expanded powers given to our police to stabilize the country. We have achieved our goals. However, I couldn't help but notice that certain higher-ranking officers in the Swedish police force have been acting autonomously. This is a grave concern for us. The chain of command is jeopardized? After further research, we found that there are some very powerful deep state forces inside the administration influencing our security. Our investigations have just begun, but certain links we have discovered are troubling. The deep state, huh? Mr. Hawker has financial and other ties to certain figures in the police and the government. He's a dangerous man. Currently, we are collecting evidence of his middlemen to discover a real link that would lead to further suspects. Lucien glanced at me with his eyebrow raised. Minister Morgana is very concerned about the Supreme Court and the old guards. She sees them as the primary threat. We need to find out about their weaknesses just in case. In that case, the department will keep an eye on any leads. We surely can to be on the safe side, even though we are working with them. Besides them, there are other elements we are aware of. The oligarchs seem to have some people on the inside as well. We've received some unconfirmed reports about Mr. Tusk having made deals with the enemies of the state. And it is suspected that they are evading taxes through bribery and exploiting gray areas in our laws. Our investigators in Estord and Narble have also found some suspicious financial activity from some of their corporations. If tax returns would be made public, it would help us track irregularities in the filings. Bribery should be eradicated from the system. Tusk is an issue, but he shouldn't be our primary target. There are bigger fish to fry. Plus, I already made a deal with him, so there's that. Very well, sir. If he isn't a big concern for you, we can talk about other figures. Marcel Caronti and the HOS also have a strong presence in the media and many other industries. There are some patterns we've observed that are unusual. It really seems like they have a powerful influence in the majority of the so-called independent news organizations. They might not be so independent after all. Marcel offered me a deal before and needs to be investigated in full. It might not be the best idea to go ahead and reveal that. Mr. Caronte has been very supportive of my administration. He's a close friend. You might not be innocent, sir, but if you think he isn't an issue, then we can move on. Therefore, we need to pick a faction to focus on. We can't investigate everyone within the remainder of the term and come up with a thorough and compelling case. The most logical step would be to use this force to pressure either the oligarchs or the old guard. Where should we concentrate our efforts? Interesting. So the last time I did this, I went ahead and investigated the oligarchs, and they do turn up some things, but I can deal with them in other matters. So as far as Hawker goes, that's going to be difficult. I can't really deal with him. So I probably need to go ahead and investigate him, because I think the last time I switched it up in the end and just abandoned the whole oligarchs thing, and then I tried to investigate Hawker, and it was just way too late. He wasn't the reason why things ended up turning out badly in that game, but it did have an effect on him. Also, there is the issue with the PFJP, but at the same time, I kind of don't want to do that purely because I have trade deals with Arcasia, and I plan on having more trade stuff with Arcasia. So while I do think Friends Richter is a problem, I don't think he's enough of a problem to go ahead and just fully go at him like that. So I'll go ahead and investigate the old guards because they have the most potential to screw me. Well, besides myself. So, yes, sir. We will focus our research and investigations on the old guards. Well, it has been decided. That should conclude the meeting. Good day and good luck, Mr. Gracer. Good day, sir. Carl and Lucien left the room. Alright, so now that we've dealt with that, we have to deal with some police issues over here. Oh, well, the Swedish Armed Forces. To determine the current situation of the military and its spending policy, we held a meeting in the White Room. Peter, Vulcan, and Isov were seated. General Vulcan, Mr. Lankia. Let's start with the briefing. Very well, Mr. Vice President. We've prepared a briefing to convey further details about the current situation of our military. First off, we've received an updated communication from the Arcadian Military Command. Their planes are being moved into Earlery Air Base as we speak. Under our supervision, of course. Let's see. Good. Make sure you keep an eye on them, though. Of course, Mr. President. Now let's move on to our military. Which branch would you like to know about? What is the situation of our army? According to the latest reports from Camp Strongarm, currently we field 3 armies totaling up to approximately 400,000 active troops. which is a good amount. The real issue we are having is the quality, not quantity. What is the current equipment status? Our army is quite outdated by today's military standards. Most of our equipment is 2 decades old. To make up for our lack of modern military equipment, we resort to a large number of soldiers, which is not really a long-term solution. I've been trying hard to reduce the effects of this problem. It's very problematic. We need more funding towards modernization. Otherwise, our army will be seen as weak. Where exactly is our army deployed at right now? The first army is stationed at the Lesbia and Weyland borders to protect the way into the central regions of Sordland. The second army, our strongest force, has been situated by the Runeberg border. The second army has a large mountain commando force, and it is the best equipped army because they are facing Runeberg. The third army, near the Agnolian border and coastal areas, facing Weyland. Due to our bitter past, we generally keep a coastal defense force, although many years ago the decimation of our fleet still is not forgotten. Let's see. How do we compare to other armies? Runeberg fields approximately 6 armies amounting to 1 million soldiers. Jesus Christ. Lesbia fields 5 armies, which amounts to 800,000 soldiers, and Weyland fields 1 army of about 140,000 soldiers. Weyland fields an army amounting to 100,000 soldiers, and Agnolia fields 2 armies with a total of 200,000 soldiers. The sheer size of Runeberg's army is because of their forced conscription laws. Due to their massive gold reserves, they are able to afford it. On the other hand, the Lesbian army is the most advanced, followed by the Volkslandian army. Both of these countries put lots of money into the modernization of their militaries. Okay, so that's not good. Jesus. Runeberg has 600,000 more troops than us. But at the same time, maybe we can get by because we have more experienced soldiers, perhaps? But if we can strike a deal with Agnolia, Weyland, and Lesbia, that would give us a lot of soldiers. And then we also have Arcadia here. So if they invade us and they screw up, Arcadia could get drawn into this as well. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's talk about our Navy, which I hear is quite shit. Our Navy currently constitutes 59 ships with a total of 60,000 sailors and support staff. As you know, these ships are commanded from our main naval base in Conriad, where our flagship, SN Renan, is docked. How does our Navy compare to others? Our Navy is dwarfed by the size of the Volkslandian Navy, which has 194 ships, and the Agnolian Navy that has 81 ships. We only surpass Lesbia in terms of our Navy, as they have less than 30 ships. As you see, the situation is dire, but the solution is not just more ships. To make a truly better Navy, we need to equip our soldiers with modern radar and sonar systems. More outdated ships wouldn't mean much. Let's see. Which seas do our Navy currently patrol? We're patrolling the Markian Sea, the Grey Strait, and the Antician Sea. Our Navy protects all our coastal regions. However, to make sure we are not thinning out our defense, we prioritize certain regions over others, like Greater Holsword. We often patrol the routes that are close to the shipping lanes, especially Markian Sea and Grey Strait. The amount of cargo that goes through that area is eye-opening. Another thing to note is, after the takeover of Helgeland, where our Navy has led incursion operations to protect Agnolia, we also take part in some joint Navy drills as well. Okay. How is our capabilities in power projection? The truth is, we're limited to our rear region due to the size of our and technological level of our naval ships. If we had modern support vessels, we could participate in international operations. That's right. We still hold some power, though. If need be, we could block the trade at the Markian Sea. To make up for our weakness, allying ourselves to a naval power could also help protect our seas. Let's hear about the other branches of the armed forces. And we only have the Air Force left, so let's hear about the Air Force. Our Air Force currently has 410 planes in the inventory, out of which only 140 are jet planes that are not in great condition. 30,000 pilots and support staff work in the Air Force, and they are commanded from the Mark Air Force Base in Earlery. What are our operational capabilities? Our planes can bomb targets within 400-kilometer radius of their airfield. They have medium range and semi-effective nighttime bombing capabilities. At any time, we can field 7 air wings composing a total of 130 aircraft that can operate in combat duty. This is enough to subdue most targets. In terms of bombing capability, we have an average of 100 meters of precision. This is not great, but it is still within the effective radius of the bombs. How experienced are our pilots? Our pilots have average experience. They have a total of 450 flight hours with their craft before they're qualified. This gives them more than enough time to get used to it. This is low compared to 1,000 to 1,500 hours in other countries like Arcadia, United Cantana, Lesbia, and even Volksland. Again, why do we keep comparing ourselves to Arcadia and United Cantana? Like, they're superpowers. Like, naturally, we're not on that path, and it's going to be a while before we get onto that path, so we probably shouldn't compare ourselves to them. Normally, the hours per pilot should be higher, but due to the lack of funding, we can't increase the training times. Fuel costs are rather high. Okay, let's learn about the other branches, I guess. Well, we've already done everything. Let's move on. He clears his throat. Thank you for keeping your promises. Know that I won't ever forget your great deed. Hopefully the allocated money helps our defense needs. The increase of the military budget is for national security, which is threatened by Rumberg and other nations. Rightfully so. We're surrounded by jackals, as our intelligence and general staff indicates. Our enemies are both outside and inside the country. We will do all that is necessary to protect this soil. Should we move on to the spending choice? Very well. The increase of the military budget leaves us with big questions about how to utilize it. There was a lot of debate at the ministry which resulted in 2 factions of thought. The first faction is in favor of enlarging the armed forces by enlisting more men, while the second faction is in favor of purchasing better military equipment instead. Okay. I get the argument for both. I mean, having a large military is a nice thing to turn around and have, but I don't know how the conscription works in Sordland. I don't know if it's like how it is in most countries where you have to do like 2 years of service, or you have to do a year of service and training and so on and so forth, and then you go back, or in certain cases I think you have to go back over a period of time, like I think it's once every so often or whatever. So if it's something like that, I don't necessarily have a problem with conscription, but yeah, it's not good to turn around and just have a whole bunch of bodies to throw at a problem, unless you just have a whole bunch of troops. I mean, that was the case with Russia during World War II. They had so many soldiers that they didn't necessarily have to turn around and have any real strategy or really good, supplies and things like that. They could just throw soldiers at the problem. I think Russia had the most deaths during World War II, but it's because they just had so many troops. They could just throw, millions of troops at a problem or whatever. Same way with China. Like, China isn't technically as advanced as the United States when it comes to our military, because we have a huge navy, a huge air force, and everything else in between, but they just have a ridiculous amount of troops. So if we were to invade them, that'll be a problem, because they have way more troops than we have, and we just can't contain that. So, but the same thing goes in the United States. It would be hard to contain the United States too. That's pretty much with any country nowadays. All right, so since I pretty much get the gist of that, I don't need any details. The generals are waiting for the word. I hope the decision is in the interest of all. I'm going to purchase better equipment and begin a modernization program, because I mean, again, it's not going to do us any good if Rumberg turns around and has 1 million soldiers. We need better equipment in order to make up for the lack of the amount of bodies we have. So, purchase better equipment. As you wish, but the decision will be negative for our old doctrine. Glad we made the right choice on this. I'll make the necessary arrangements. Isov and Vulcan looked at each other and frowned. That will be all for today then. Good work, everyone. I'd like to extend my thanks for your attendance. The meeting concluded as the sun set over the concrete jungle that was Holsword. I don't know why that was over here, though, because it said it was Holsword. but it was over there. I don't know. Maybe I missed something there, but okay. All right, so we have more reports and we have more news. So the L1 railway is nearing completion, and then we'll have to deal with that, the ramifications from that. I hope it'll affect our budget and help us out a little bit, because Jesus Christ, we're suffering. Cardinal switches to NFB. Good God. Okay. Oh, well, that's gonna be a problem. Okay. I don't know how many people he took with him. Young swords and militants arrested. So that's gonna be a thing. Okay, Weyland and Agnolia. So let's go ahead and get this on the way. And then after that, I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up. And then we'll go ahead and deal with the ramifications of both. Trade talks with the Prime Minister of Agnolia. Sordland 1's flight from Holsword to Starport took 3 hours, but went very smoothly. We were about to touch down. David left his seat and came over while Simon was enjoying his newspaper. Looks like we're about to land, Mr. President. I looked outside. I could see Helgeland, the island in between Vogsland and Agnolia. So many conflicts over a small piece of land. The island can barely sustain itself without outside help. If I was in the shoes of Agnolia's president, I would do anything to protect the motherland. Of course, but as I get older, I started to question more things. I suspect it will be one of the topics that Mr. Van Horden will bring up as a bargaining chip. We must be careful. Helgeland might be under the control of Agnolia, but the international community is yet to recognize it. For a good reason, too. Nobody wants to make an enemy of Vogsland, especially because of the support of United Contana and the CSP. Me included. I wouldn't want to do anything to injure our relationship with Vogsland. I think we already have. I agree. We should try to do our best to stay in the middle ground. Simon folded his newspaper, got up from his seat, and sat right next to us. Aside from the point of Helgeland, we need to be careful with the additional requests. According to the deal that was negotiated so far, they want to sell us their steel for a higher price, and they are requesting easier access to our agricultural markets. In return, they are promising cash flow and investments, especially in the Ogland region. It's not hard to guess why. Precisely, Agnolian immigrants in our England region makes up a good chunk of the region's economy. During the initial negotiations, they have brought up the topic of immigration many times. The fact that we have relaxed our immigration laws will help tremendously. Let's see if we can shake hands on it. The pilot made an announcement that the descent had started. David and Simon went back to their seats. I took another look outside the window. I could see Starport, the capital city of Agnolia. So the last time I did this, it just went terribly. Like, I didn't even get a chance to do a deal or anything like that. I've only been able to strike a deal with them one time, and I messed up. I didn't accept a military deal with them because I assumed that if I turned around and did a military deal with them, it would draw me into the conflict between them and Vogsland. So, but that's not the case. You can do a military deal, a trade deal, and then you can also decide on whether or not you want to jump in on the Vogsland thing or whatnot. And I guess that'll be if you're going a full Arcasia route. But in this case, I'm actually not sure. I hope keeping the trade open is going to be enough to kind of nudge me to at least take a shitty deal, and then I can at least have some trade with them, but we'll see how this goes. The large dockyards of the city and the canals appeared closer as our descent continued. Starport was certainly a fitting name due to stall meaning canal. A couple minutes later, we finally touched down. The plane parked. I took a final look out from the window. The welcoming ceremony from Agnolia was waiting along the red carpet outside. After the guards made their way out, I exited the plane. Let me see. Wave at the crowd. I waved at the crowd that gathered. There were many camera flashes. I started to make my way downstairs. Prime Minister Van Horden was nowhere in sight. Instead, I was greeted by the foreign minister. After handshakes and a couple of photos, I moved to the car where Sergei was waiting to make our way to the office of Prime Minister. Good day, sir. I hope the flight was comfortable. Yes, it was. Thank you, Sergey. I got in the car and we made our way through the foreign streets. Our convoy was protected by Sordist and Agnolian guards in their vehicles. We began driving by the highway beside the port and saw dozens of dockyards and ships anchored. Some of the ships and machinery looked old. The city itself looked very gray and grim. The buildings had a touch of Runeberg's famous monarchian architecture, with a mixture of Sordist signature domes on the older ones. We were now on the main road to the office of the Prime Minister. Looks like they're not happy to see you, sir. Sergey pointed at the crowd that gathered on both sides of the streets. It was a protest. They were shouting and yelling at our convoy. Some of them held signs written in Sordist. Go home, Rain. We don't want autocrats in Agnolia. You know, I never knew Agnolians were so ungrateful. Not everyone sees a great leader like you every day. I wonder what propaganda the state is feeding them. They're afraid of you, sir. They are scared that Sordland will reach its potential. They don't want you to be seen as the great hero you are. The convoy started slowing down. We've arrived, sir. The car continued through the gates while the security vehicles went the other way. We finally came to a stop at the front door. Sergey left the car and opened the car door. I exited and began walking to the door where dozens of press and the Prime Minister were waiting for me. I saw the PM much more clearly as I neared the door. He was shorter than I thought. Mr. President, welcome to Agnolia and to the beautiful city of Stallport. Also, as far as the protest thing goes, that always happens. I think the wording changed because this time they called me an autocrat, whereas in the last one, they just wanted a better trade deal and they wanted us to be fair. But you're always going to get protests, so. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's great to be here. He reached out for a handshake. The press surrounding us had been waiting for this moment. Let's see, I'll just shake hands. Let's see, he gestured to the entrance of the 200-year-old Parliament building. This way, please. We entered and the press followed us inside. I would like to present you with a gift as a sign of friendship in between our countries. An assistant showed up immediately with a large glass box in her hands. It contained a single parchment inside. This here is one of the first treaties written in between Sordland and Agnolia. May it mark the renewal of our friendship today as well. This is an amazing gift. Thank you. Our photos were taken again. I gestured at one of my retainers who was holding our gift to the PM. Now, I'm curious about this. Now, after this, and not too long later on in the game, you get a report that Martin Van Horten ends up winning re-election or whatever. I wonder if I turn around and screw him over when he turn around and lose re-election. So I am kind of curious on what happens if I turn around and give him that, even though he has a fear of dogs. But I guess I could be nice. I'll give him an ornamental sword made with Sword steel. So. An excellent specimen. This must be hundreds of years old. It looks like this is Sword steel as well. Very fitting. Thank you. The cameras flashed once again. Let's go to my office. Follow me. I followed him and we entered the office of the Prime Minister. It was a room of wooden minimalist decoration. It was far more modest than I expected. We sat down. He leaned back and made himself comfortable. Sheesh, thankfully done with the ceremonies. I was just about to say the same. I'm not fond of these either. It's one of the tougher parts of our job. He got up from his chair and moved over to the bar. There were many varieties of liquor. Would you like a drink, Mr. Rain? Wouldn't mind some Magnolian vodka. You know your drink. He poured the drinks and gave mine to me before sitting down again. Let's go straight to business. First of all, I would like to say that I've been watching your recent changes to the immigration policy. I'm glad you've decided to keep it relaxed. Immigrants are very important for beneficial economical development, and we believe that very much in Agnolia. It is reassuring to see Sordland move into a more modern direction. Thank you. He took a sip from his vodka. I know that you've declared a state of emergency, so early into your presidency too. So tell me, how's that going? Let me see. I had no choice but to deal with our issues in Sordland. Sometimes as a leader, we have to make tough choices, but you need to understand that I need trustable trading partners. So tell me, Mr. Rain, is Sordland a reliable trading partner to Agnolia? Of course, Mr. Van Horden. You can trust Sordland. Very good. Van Horden leaned back further in contemplation. So, what is it going to be? First of all, if we shake hands on it, this agreement is going to be really beneficial for both of us. You should be able to solve your recession in no time with the investments and money flowing coming from us. This is, as you know, on top of the reduced tariffs for trade in between our countries. Of course, in return, as discussed between my people and your people before, you will allow us privileged access to your agriculture market. You will be buying steel from us for a higher price, which is a small price to pay, really. That is the deal. What do you say, Mr. Rain? Yes, I accept it. Okay, so I guess you can only have that deal with Agnolia if you have open immigration. Because last time I had closed immigration and he just completely was just like, no. I guess that on top of the fact that I have the whole autocratic thing going on, he was just like, no. So this puts me on a better track, and hopefully I can have, because I know I can do a deal with Weyland. That's not even a thing. I know that's going to be a deal. But so now that puts me on track to have a deal with Agnolia, Weyland, and Lesbia. So this is going to turn out really good for my economy, actually. All right, I accept. And it's a small price to pay. I did that last time. I'm kind of want to see what would happen if I say this deal isn't good for Sordland, but I don't have the room to really turn around and try and pull that off this time around. So I'll just accept the deal. Excellent. Before we dive into the paperwork for the trade deal, I want to offer you another possibility. I would like to expand on our newly found partnership. We have regional forces like Runeberg that has been imposing danger on both of our countries. I'm of the mind that we must unite. So, by the powers bestowed upon me as the Prime Minister of Agnolia, I'm offering a military alliance in between Sordland and Agnolia. What do you think? And I accept this as well, because last time I chose to not do this deal with Agnolia, and I paid dearly for it. So, I accept. That is excellent to hear. Our ministers will go over the details later. Now that we've gone this far and are willing to enter an alliance, there's another topic that I would like to bring up. As you know, Helgeland has been long contested between Agnolia and Volksland. Those warmongers want to take back the island. You know how the international community does not recognize our rightful claim on the island, including Sordland. What better act to cement our alliance than announcing to the world that Sordland recognizes Helgeland to be Agnolian territory? Now, in this particular case, I am once again going to not go that far, because I already have enough trouble with Volksland, and I don't want it to go any further. And considering how I plan on doing the military allocations and stuff like that, and the modernization program, it's not going to help me at all. So, yeah, I'm not even finna get involved in that at all. So you're asking a little too much there, buddy. It's understandable, but I won't push too much on the matter. We've achieved enough for today. Well then, he stood up from his chair. We must continue the official program. As you know, we will pay a visit to our founder's grave for another ceremony. Afterwards, we will move on to the state dinner. After you. Yeah, last time I got mad and I just left and it turned into a real bad thing for him. I thought he might lose his re-election behind that, but he didn't, so. As soon as we left the office, I briefed Simon and David on the outcome of the meeting. The rest of our state trip was full of fake smiles, handshakes, incredibly long ceremonies, and even longer meetings between our ministers and their counterparts. When we came to the end of the trip, the way back was mostly silent. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief when we touched down on Wholesword. Okay, now that's one trade deal in the bag. So now we just got to turn around and get one with Weyland and hopefully with Lesbia as well. We have rioters arrested in Lindenkerg. Always good to know. Police is doing their job as usual. Jesus Christ, how did they get 4 things? Okay, Sordland and Agnolia enters an alliance. So that's front page on the whole sword post. And the radical journalist has been arrested. So good. We're starting to get rid of the radical. If only we could just take it over completely. That would be even better. The mayor of Enrica joins the NFP, so that's up there. That's going to cause some problems for me later, I'm sure. And we have a major military overhaul, so that's good as well. Sordland today. Second Contanin satellite is in space, so they're just now reporting the news about that. We got that report a while back. And on the radical, darkness descends of doom and gloom. As you know, because they're very happy with everything I'm doing. They're very happy people. So, and in geopolitical, we have a new alliance in Eastern Markopa. So, they're very happy about that. And Hegel is not happy with Van Horden, as you can see. So, there's that. All right. So, now let's move on to Weyland, and then after that, we will wrap this episode up. Sordland 1, flight to whatever that is. Sordland 1's flight from Wholesword to whatever that is took approximately 5 hours. Despite heavy turbulence, I managed to sleep a little. Along with Simon and David, we landed at the international airport of the capital city of Weyland. Our aim here was to finalize the trade deal drafted in between Sordland and Weyland. Shortly after our plane landed, the door opened and the sun blinded me for a moment. I stepped outside. I saw the soldiers lined up on either side of the red carpet. There must have been at least 100 soldiers. The marching band started playing and the soldiers immediately saluted me. And I will salute them back. At the bottom of the stairs, Victor Smolak was waiting for me next to a military jeep with a few soldiers by his side. There were a few reporters on the side, waiting with their cameras. He was a tall man, almost as tall as me. He was wearing large sunglasses and his attire was a regular suit, contrasting with the military attire of everyone else in the field. Mr. President, welcome to Reklowitz. He immediately motioned for an embrace. He hugged and many cameras went off at the same time. He turned around for a couple of additional poses. Pull him aside for a couple more poses yourself. Now that the pleasantries are done, let's go. We will take the jeep for a tour. With another tune from the marching band, we boarded the military jeep. He sat in the driver's seat and sat next to him. And I sat next to him. As we started speeding up, the soldiers saluted again. Victor Smolak saluted back, and I will salute again. My security detail and Victor's security detail started following us immediately along with a team of reporters. We will first go to the city center to see the opening of a statue. Oh, whose statue? It's mine, of course. We kept making small talk about the flight and the weather until we started making our way into the city center. Some slight typos there. On almost every corner, there were reporters taking photos of us. Oddly enough, every single street that we took seemed completely empty. Oh great, we're in North Korea. Let's see. Is Reklowitz always this empty? I had the locals close down their business because of your visit, so that you can enjoy the city more. There we are. We arrived at the city center. In the middle of a large plaza, there was a covered statue. Lots of people had gathered behind fences, and they were waving both Sordland and Weyland flags. Victor waved back at them. My people have been very supportive of this visit, Mr. President. I'm sure you are delighted to see. A man came closer to the fences and started yelling at Victor. With my limited knowledge of the Wessex language, I understood the words Victor and murderer. Almost instantaneously, 2 soldiers showed up from behind the man and he was taken away. Thankfully, the sun is up. Today will be a good day for the reveal. I see that you know how to handle dissidents. Very good. I'm glad you approve. We're of the same mind. See, I knew we would get along fine. We took our places in front of the statue. With a drum roll, the statue of Victor Smolik was uncovered. The statue was done pretty well, except that he was made more masculine. He was wearing a cloak and holding a sword in his hand. Excellent statue. Very lifelike. What do you think? Yes, it's very good. Very lifelike. Glad you appreciate the art behind it. Join me for a walk. I followed him through the streets. At every corner, more and more photos were taken. We stopped in front of a pastry vendor on the street. Give me 2 strudels. The man behind the stand smiled and gave us 2 strudels. Let me see. I'm gonna wait for him to pay the street vendor. I waited for him to pay the street vendor. He simply took the 2 strudels and didn't pay anything. You know, your country, your rules, buddy. I'm not finna, yep, as long as you sign this trade deal, you can do whatever you want. Oh God, my budget, what the hell? I didn't see that. Okay. Keep walking. Afterwards, we walked a short distance to the palace. Passing the gates of the palace, we made our way into the main building made from ivory-colored stones. The old guard towers flanked the magnificent main building from both sides. The inside of the palace was very spacious with a very large chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Grand staircases made from the same ivory stone had red carpets on them. On both sides to the upper levels, guards stood with the traditional outfits of the old Wessex kingdoms. We finally reached the office of the president of Weyland. The door closed behind us. The interior boasted gold ornaments on the walls, ivory colors, and various jewels attached to different artifacts of old. As it was customary in Weyland, we sat down on the carpet. Now we can talk about our trade deal. Nod. But before that, this dude. He clapped his hands twice. Bring the Keisha. A few assistants immediately entered the room, carrying a large ornamented Keisha, the well-known smoking instrument originating from Weyland. They immediately lit it up, and the room was filled with the smell of tobacco. He inhaled the smoke and handed me the Keisha. Partake. It was probably the highest quality tobacco I had ever smoked. I handed it back. He took another puff, filling the room with more smoke. So, Mr. President. Bah, that's too long. Can I call you Anton? Sure, as long as you sign this damn deal. Anton. I know you have put an embargo on them, and I congratulate you for standing up to Runeberg. But let me ask you a question. What do you really think about Runeberg? They are a threat that needs to be dealt with. I agree with your sentiments, Anton. They are a threat to everyone in the region. I assure you their time will come. Are you planning something? No, not yet. For now, I have something else in mind. What is it? He clapped his hands again. 2 assistants came in the room with a map of the border regions in between Weyland and Sordland. He pointed at the border. Look, Bloods and their so-called BFF are causing problems for me in this region. I know that they're also a problem for you as well. I will not allow these traitors to exist in my border. So I will hit them with all the might of Weyland. These terrorists need to be destroyed. I call it Operation Bear Trap. I like the sound of it. He grinned and lay back on the large pillow behind him. Here's the deal. I will give you the best trade deal in the region. You will give me your assistance, crushing the terrorists on both of our borders. 2 birds, 1 stone. You read my mind. My spies have infiltrated BFF cells and they found caches of KA-74s. We traced them back to Runeberg. This alone justifies my retaliation to protect my country. Worst of all, we also found that similar shipments are going to Sordland. Yes, Anton, you see, this is not just Weyland's problem. Let's take a step back and talk about what you will get in return. I propose to you a no tariff agreement, co-investment projects, and oil. In return, you will assist me in destroying the terrorists in my country. There might be international ramifications. To hell with international ramifications. I will protect my country. I don't care what they say. What I want from you in return for all the money and the resources is a joint operation in between our armies against BFF. I took a moment to think about it. Now, interestingly enough, you don't actually have to turn around and use your military to help him out. The only reason why I'm going to do this is because of something else that's going to happen later on. It turned out okay, and I think the reason why it turned out okay was because of certain other choices like this one. So I am going to do the deal in full. So, deal. I knew I could trust you, Anton. Tonight we will drink. He clapped his hands again. Drinks, dancers, music. Instead of the two assistants this time, a group of dancers and performers entered the smoke-filled room. As they performed their songs, we clinked our glasses to our newly found partnership while sipping the sweet Wessex liquor. The next day, I returned to Sordland with a hangover. Alright, so we have pulled off a trade deal with Agnolia and Weyland, so that will help us tremendously. Now, can we pull off one with Lesbia? Because we're definitely not going to be able to pull off one with Voxland. You top that off with a trade with us dealing with Arcasia as well, and we could have a very powerful economy. Also, I'm afraid to say this, I'm actually rethinking the whole plan about keeping the emergency decree. Most of this game, I've actually kept the emergency decree the entire time. But I think once again, I will turn around and lift the emergency decree. But you know what? I'll ask you guys, what do you think I should do? Should I lift the emergency decree when it does come up, or should I keep the emergency decree? Because if I keep it, it's going to really negatively impact my economy. But considering all these trade deals that we're working out so far, we could have a really booming economy later on down the road. So let me know what you think. Keep the emergency decree or let it go. So thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, like the video. And yeah, there's going to be more videos like this to come. And also, I will be recording the life and suffering of Sir Bronte here shortly. I'm going to do it as soon as I get done with this video. I did not think it was going to get as many views as it did, but I do appreciate it. And I'm always happy to provide you with new things. And if you have suggestions, hey, put them in the comment section. I'll take a look at it. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.